Hello and welcome everybody, I am SocioPsycho and today we will be looking at One Finger Death Punch by Silver Dollar Games. Now what exactly, you may ask, is this game? And the answer to that is a sort of ninja combat martial arts butcher fest. And let's go into the depth and see exactly what the good qualities are and the bad qualities of this game is. And unfortunately, we have to start on a bad quality. The game does not have an options menu. The only thing it has is a voice on and a music option. Now the voice is not something you really hear too often. It's not something is going to be a bother. It doesn't invade or disrupt your gameplay. A few times it does happen. It's like either a tip or very quick and easy to ignore because it happens so fast and so rare. For this video purpose though, we're going to turn it off so I'm not interrupted in any point. The music I should say, is a bit disappointing. Now, the music is really good and fits well with the theme of this game. It makes you feel epic and it's just a really solid soundtrack to this game. The unfortunate thing is it does not have a slider option, so you're going to have to manually do it from the desktop via your sound control options. An inconvenience, yes. Impossible to get around, no. Now, would it be nice to have a sound slider? Of course. I mean, some people are maybe perhaps more perceptible and like, oh, that's way too loud, that hurts. I didn't find an issue with it, but having that option would be really nice. Now, the big kicker, the main thing with not having an options menu that is a detriment to this game is it does not have a screen resolution option. I am playing at 1080 by 1920 or 1920 by 1080 and it feels a little stretched out, which leads with that and some of the poor art design inside the gameplay leads to a little bit of a sense of motion sickness, and I'm not somebody who gets motion sickness. So for me to be like, oh, my head hurts a little bit or I'm getting dizzy is not positive for people who are more perceptible to that sort of thing. Having a screen resolution options is just, why do you not have this? When we move on, high scores, basically so a listing of your scores. Mastery shows your total, how well you've been doing. Achievements, pretty simple. Leaderboards, now the issue with leaderboards is the game has a lot of missions in it. I believe it has 250 missions, as we'll show you when we jump into the game itself. But there's no real explanation on how to improve your score. So for hardcore gamers who really relish the opportunity in getting their name on the high board, if you're number 5 and you're like, okay, I've done every mission, where did I go wrong? It can be a little frustrating and confusing perhaps to find that one spot where you could have done better, because there are different types of missions and some are as simple as, hey, how fast can you get through this mission? So it might have been, oh, you're 2 seconds slow on that mission, on top of, so there's so many options and variables, it's difficult to find the correct one. That's what I'm saying about that. When we go into a play, we have 2 modes here. Survival mode is basically an endless horde which you survive as long as you can. Now the thing about campaign survival modes is they have 3 difficulty levels, which is really good, because if the first difficulty you're like, that was simple, what the fuck, come on, you have 2 more difficulties. So for hardcore players, I wholeheartedly approve. When we go into the levels, we go into, obviously, these are unlocked, not locked yet. We go into students and we look at the map. Now, like I said before, this game has 250 missions, which is impressive on its own. I'm not sure how difficult it was to make that, but that is a lot of content for this style of game, or maybe it's not. With an increase in difficulty levels, you're looking at about 750 levels of different difficulties. That is entertaining, at least, a lot of content. As well as it has 13 different play modes, as well as just your standard, 13 different play modes are like special abilities maps, which we'll get into and we'll show you. But what is not cool is this background map thing. Look at this water. Why even bother? You could just have a hand-drawn, beautiful map and then a path written through this. But you decide to go with this instead, and while that's not prevalent to the gameplay at all, it's ugly to look at. And you're not just saying, hey, buy my game, you're also saying, hey, I want to make you feel like this is something you want to do and this is beautiful. And this makes me look like, all right, let me just get in a game because this is ugly. I don't like this. Let me get right into the game. So we'll start on an early mission so I can kind of explain exactly what the mechanics are of the combat. And it's very simple to begin with. You have two attacks. Your mouse button, which is your left and right clickers. And if enemies are coming from the left, you'll press the left mouse button. If enemies are coming from the right, you'll press your right mouse button. It's that simple. Now, you can only attack them once they get into your range, as you see in the bottom, the little slider. And the number that's counting down is the number of enemies left on the map. That's how many more you have to face. As you progress into the game, it gets seriously more intense with a bunch more enemies. As you see the health bar, and in the bottom corner it was the special skills that you're allowed to take in. We'll go into ability and skills a little bit later. Now, no, let's go to this one. Now, my gripe about this game is just for background. Now, it could be because of the fact of the screen resolution, but yet again with the pictures. Because while you're not looking necessarily at the background, you're not like, ooh, I'm just going to stare at the background. It is there in your peripheral, and going at fast pace through combat again and again, I feel like that leads sort of to the motion sickness because it's not a high resolution picture. I feel they could have done a little bit better on the background pictures, which leads, like I said, which leads into the motion sickness, which causes you to break gameplay. But as far as the mechanics go itself, yes, the mechanics are quite good. They're very enjoyable. It gives you a sense of power, I want to say, accomplishment, like, oh, I did this, or oh, I want to do better on this, which is good. The mechanic of the game is solid. There's no reason. It can be very fast paced, and the better you want to do, the more dedication and concentration you need to put into it, which is very difficult doing while commentating, I might add. Now, this guy, as you see with the crown, whoop, too slow, so I got hit. He offers, the crown guys here offer a special little fight scene, as you saw. So when you're fighting 20 guys and that guy pops up, it can be a little like, uh-oh. Now the cool thing is though, you can kill those guys with special abilities, archery, and other things. Archery, swords, knives, and whatnot, able to one-shot enemies. Like that grenade right there, I just killed that guy in one hit where it would have been previously 2 hits. So how does the combat feel? I mean, I guess that's really the main point, isn't it? The combat feels smooth, elegant, and beautiful. And when you get a special crit hit, like there's where you can rip somebody's heart out, or you can slice somebody's skull off, it's actually quite entertaining. The thing is, some people wouldn't like necessarily the fact that it's cut out figurines, but I say, you know, that's actually what gives it some of its charm, because if you are playing it and expecting, and you have, you know, fighters and everything else at this high pace, with more detail in it, the motion blur that you can expect would be even greater, which would lead to even more different issues in motion sickness. And unless you have a huge budget to be able to try to balance that out and make it really smooth, I feel the choice in the character design is perfectly fine. It doesn't degrade from the game at all. It makes it simplistic so you don't get drawn into one issue or get a headache from looking at something shiny, like, oh, he has shiny armor on. My eye hurts now every time I see that. So it's not, the graphical aspect in that sense is not an issue. Now, one thing more about the units, you have the green and the blue. The blue guys will, after you hit once, dodge behind you, so you have to hit them on the other side. The green ones you just have to hit twice. Now, why would that be an issue, you say? It's because if you miss, you become susceptible to being injured, and if you get injured, obviously you're going to die. The element of the destructible environment adds a sort of entertainment value to it, which is actually quite nice. It increases that I'm powerful and capable, and those were pretty much the basic combat maps that you can expect. The speed, now there is the speed mechanic, which I have not talked about yet, which we'll jump right into. Impaled. On the top left, you have a speed here, 115. The better you do, the faster the speed goes, the higher your score goes. Fighting at a higher speed, by not screwing up, it'll keep climbing, but it will not go underneath 100 if you fail, which gets slowed down by when you get hit or miss. So the faster you go with not being hurt and injured, the harder it gets, and also the higher your score gets. So people who really want perfection really have to work for it, which is nice. It's not a handout for everybody. If you want it, you really have to earn it. This is really hard to commentate on and focus on. It requires so much attention. I got killed by a weapon. So as you see with speed mechanic here, I've seen it go up to 153, and it can really make it faster and harder. So that's the beauty. Like, see right there, here I am, you know, you're thinking, oh, well, he's hating on this game, and very old laugh, and it turns it all around. Some of the aesthetics really make this game feel bad. It's like, okay, the visuality of it is a little rough, but there's some unique charm in it. But when you get to the mechanics of the game, it's just, the mechanics of the game are so well done that it's beautiful. And it's, if they were just able to upgrade the visualization as well as to meet the mechanics, this would have been amazing. Now, there's still speciality modes. There's 13 of these mission, 13 different types of these missions. So I'll show you a couple of these. Nunchucks, and these are little entertaining things as well. It really makes you feel like a badass, which is really cool. And so I feel like my effort and my time is being rewarded. It's not just saying, okay, thank you for your money, go fuck off. No, it's saying you are a master ninja. You are somebody who will not fall. Whoop. Uh-oh, wrong one. Ah! You are somebody who can handle this sort of thing. And it really does that quite well, which I respect. One thing I really love the most, maybe it's just because I like Star Wars themed stuff, is light sword round. Anytime I've ever played a Star Wars style game, even though this is a light sword, not a lightsaber, this is what I've always felt being a Jedi should feel like, but no Star Wars game has ever been able to actually pull this off. And this right here is like the perfect representation of what I think you should be able to do as a Jedi, and it's really entertaining. The slicing and dicing, the maiming and killing, it's beautiful. Oh, wrong one. So there are some things about this game which it's not, you know, the game is not damned because of its graphic capability, and half of its graphic capability is what makes the game run so smooth, and the other half is why it can hurt the game so badly. It's a catch. Now, there are certain different hit enemy objects to break, 12 objects to win. So this one, you're not actually destroying, well, you're still killing people, but it's more about destroying objects. By, see, like that barrel got crushed. And so there are different modes like this, which add a bit of variety to the game. You can't just button spam, you end up dead. See, like right there, I punched his heart out of his body. That's beautiful. And it's such a simplistic animation, but it's so... So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, there are some missions which are just ugly, or difficult, or whatever. And if you're a hardcore player, and love leaderboards, this might be something to sink your teeth into. But if you're like me and you're not overly excited about these type of games, this is something I would play after a hard day's work, come home, play 2 games, maybe 3, and that's because of a motion issue I talked about. But other than that, you'll get your money's worth. It rewards you. It makes you feel like, hey, thank you for playing. You feel like a badass, which a lot of games fail. A lot of games are like, hey, you're a hero. Now fight people who are equal in strength to you. It's like, what? I mean, you need to have a balance issue, yeah, of course, but this respects you. And because it respects me, I respect it. There's also bosses. How could I forget about bosses? Boss battles happen now and again, and they change in between the types of enemies. So you need to be careful about that because they change this. I'm getting my butt kicked. They change in between what capabilities they will do, which makes it a bit more difficult if you're not careful. That's why. Oh. And one other thing that adds a little bit of extra character to the game is these abilities. Now you unlock these abilities via doing missions. Certain missions will have an ability on top of it, and you gain that ability by completing that mission. Now what these are exactly are passive abilities, such as this one. Deflect 1 hit from any color enemy activities after 70 kills. Next weapon pickup will be thrown, activates after 18 kills. Slow enemies down by 25% for 10 seconds. Every bow comes with 2 additional arrows. Now, these capabilities are really beautiful in making the game even more fun, or playing a certain way, or just making maybe something easier or harder even, depending on what you choose and how you want to go. You can have 3 of these active abilities at any time, and this is a good quality mechanic it has in the game, and it works out just fine. So overall, is this game worth it? For $5, yes. But in my opinion, with the graphical setbacks, just barely. So I will leave you with one good show without me talking. You'll hear the music in the background. You can get a feel for yourself. Thank you everybody for watching. I've been SocioPsycho.